Since the jet age, fighter pilots have been scrambled to intercept UFOs in our skies. But what happens when pilots are sent with a shoot-down order? Fighter pilots are forced to confront something they have never trained for, and officially does not exist. And when they encounter UFOs, their mission automatically becomes classified. Some pilots claim they can't catch the UFO. Others report their weapons jam when they try to fire. What happens on these missions is often made top secret. Is combat stress affecting pilot testimony? Are UFOs so technologically superior they escape us at will? And what happens when a UFO can even sense a pilot's intent to attack? Join us as we investigate dangerous fighter-pilot encounters with UFOs. A global effort has begun. Secret files hidden from the public for decades, detailing every UFO account, are now available to the public. We are about to uncover the truth behind these classified documents. Find out what the government doesn't want you to know. Unsealed. Alien Files. Exposing the biggest secret on planet Earth. Fighter pilots are responsible for the safety of our skies. It's a dangerous job that takes lightning-fast reflexes and nerves of steel. They are some of the most highly trained professionals in the world. But there is one threat they have not trained for.
It's one thing to, be in a dogfight with an enemy aircraft, but a UFO that, for all you know, has technology way ahead of your own. You go up there as a pilot, and what's going through your mind is, I may not come back down again.
One incident in the late 1940s, near America's largest gold reserve, strikes fear in the hearts of American pilots and incites a media firestorm. Unsealed case file, the Mantell incident. January 7th, 1948, Fort Knox, Kentucky. Captain Thomas F. Mantell is a decorated World War II pilot with over 2,000 hours of flight time. While patrolling the skies, he's told that a westbound circular object about 250 feet across has entered the Kentucky airspace.
In January of 1948, Thomas Mantell was piloting a P-51 Mustang, along with two other P-51s.
3 witnesses in the control tower of Goldman Field at Fort Knox make visual contact. The P-51 Mustangs of the Kentucky Air National Guard turn toward the object and accelerate. Mantell allegedly reports over his radio that the object looks metallic and is of tremendous size.
He got to about 20,000 feet when his P-51 then began to spiral out of control and later crashing, killing 25-year-old Thomas Mantell.
Rumor spreads that Mantell has been shot down by a UFO. It's the first incident in U.S. history where a fighter pilot allegedly dies engaging a UFO. For the first time, the Air Force and the public realize that UFOs are more than just mysterious. They can also be deadly.
The question is, how did he crash?
It didn't crash in the ground like a normal explosion, like if they'd taken the thing and dropped it out of the sky, boom. And the time on his watch had stopped at the time of impact.
The other idea is the UFO had an effect on his plane.
Some experts also believe Mantell may have been chasing a top-secret weather balloon called Skyhook. Multiple Skyhook balloons were launched 250 miles northeast that same day, but none of the explanations stick. And the military begins to make UFO identification a top priority.
It's going to definitely start spreading throughout the military and create some kind of hysteria or fear, because if your commanding officer says, get this enemy, and this enemy is better than you, there's a huge threat to that, and that's a huge problem.
Years later, an incident in Brazil confirms the one fact that has dogged the world's military for 40 years. Chasing UFOs is one thing. Catching them is an entirely different matter. Unsealed case file, the Sao Paulo UFO incident. Sao Paulo, Brazil, May 19th, 1986. 20 UFOs are tracked on radar and seen by eyewitnesses on the ground. 2 F-5Es and 3 Mirage fighter jets are scrambled from Santa Cruz and Annapolis Air Force Base.
We had ground radar tracking 20 objects. We had multiple airplanes seeing this thing over the 4 hours.
Some of these pilots then acquired the UFOs visually as well as on their radars. This went on, involved at least 6 military aircraft, maybe more.
In a press conference, Brazilian General Otávio Lima states, "At one point, the chase was inverted, and an F-5E fighter was surrounded by 13 colored lights and chased with 7 on one side and 6 on the other."
Afterwards, this was clearly taken seriously within the Brazilian government at high level. Senior Air Force officers were involved. I believe the Minister of Aeronautics was involved at one stage.
The Sao Paulo incident is discussed openly by high-ranking government officials in Brazil.
But then in the end, it was suggested that perhaps this was just space debris. Could it have been space debris? Of course, it could have been space debris if space debris likes to sit in one place and hover, but probably not.
A short message from the U.S. Defense Attaché in Rio to the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency reads, quote, 3 visual sightings and positive radar contact from 3 different types of radar systems leads one to believe that something arrived over Brazil. Up next, we reveal one of the most shocking incidents of fighter pilots engaging with UFOs, exposing just how powerless fighter jets can be, even when locked on target. This is Unsealed, Alien Files. Armed with a shoot-down order, jet fighters have been intercepting unknowns in our skies for decades. But what happens when they decide to pull the trigger? Unsealed case file, the Tehran incident. Tehran, Iran, September 19, 1976. A UFO is spotted by civilians and confirmed by the control tower at Tehran's Mehrabad International Airport.
The thing was about 300 foot in diameter. It was on radar. The F-4 phantoms were scrambled. This thing was getting bigger in their screen, and they said, "What should we do?" And control said, "Shoot it down."
One pilot gets close to the UFO. He describes it as an extremely bright object, like a small glowing moon. But what happens next defies explanation. A secondary UFO emerges out of the primary UFO and shoots straight toward the pilot's F-4 Phantom.
Now, to a pilot, if you see a craft eject something and it's coming at you, it just fired a missile at you. So the next thing that he does is he arms his aim-for missile, flips the switch, and he's going to fire back.
And just as he's ready to pull the trigger, everything goes dead in his cockpit. Missiles disarmed, everything's gone. His engines are working, but he's flying, but he can't shoot.
It's a terrifying moment for any pilot. And in this case, the unknown objects have defied the laws of physics.
Before it impacts his craft, it makes a dip, it loops around his aircraft, and rejoins the original UFO, as pretty much to say, I don't think so, don't even try it.
You got to ask yourself the question, what sort of technology can defeat radar, turn off your electronic systems, but keep your engine running, selectively disarm your weapons? What sort of technology can do that? We don't know. We don't have it, but somebody out there does.
The Tehran incident is unprecedented in ufology because of the existence of a detailed defense intelligence report filed 3 days later.
This is all documented in a 4-page declassified document in the United States intelligence community. This was obviously a very important event.
An incident like the Tehran incident, everyone's going to take that seriously, from the CIA to the DIA to the U.S. Air Force.
When you read from the first word to the last, reads like science fiction. They cannot explain this case even today.
But there is another important document on the Tehran incident, one that explains why top-secret agencies are still studying UFOs. The declassified expert assessment reports credibility of many of the witnesses was high. visual sightings were confirmed by radar, and similar electromagnetic effects were reported by 3 aircraft.
You're then confronted with something that is literally out of this world, that has nothing to do with anything they've been trained to. All of a sudden, you go from being the best of the best to quite possibly inferior to what you're facing. And that's a huge threat to any military anywhere in the cosmos.
How do you carry out your orders on something that you 5 minutes ago didn't think existed anyway?
The final conclusion of the 1976 Tehran DIA assessment states, quote, "An outstanding report. This case is a classic, which meets all the criteria necessary for a valid study of the UFO phenomenon."
Whatever was going on in Tehran that night, there was definitely something odd and strange. And the documentation, even decades after the event, can't explain it.
Up next, the only known reported case in military history where a fighter pilot is given a shoot-down order and allegedly makes a direct hit on a UFO. This is Unsealed, Alien Files. Top secret government evidence, compelling eyewitnesses, and radar testimony suggest that advanced, unknown technology is threatening our airspace, and we may be powerless to stop it. Many pilots have engaged a UFO, only to have that unknown craft outmaneuver their jets, and worse, disable their instruments and weapons. But what happens when a shoot-down order is given and the pilot fires his missiles? Unsealed case file, the Peru incident. La Jolla, Peru, April 11th, 1980.
In April of 1980, an object was detected on radar in Peru. This is about 7:30 in the evening.
This is the case of Oscar Santamaria, and he was an Air Force commander who was scrambled in response to an uncorrelated target that was being tracked on military radar.
Almost 2,000 personnel are on shift at Mariano Melgar Air Force Base when what looks like a weather balloon is spotted near a high-security area.
A UFO had apparently penetrated and was operating within restricted military airspace, and he was ordered to open fire.
Pilot Oscar Santamaria Huertas is scrambled in his Su-22 Russian-made fighter jet, equipped with 30mm cannon. Readied with a shoot-down order, he flies directly toward the unknown target. But what happens next is widely considered to be the only reported direct hit on a UFO in military history.
So he rolls up on this thing and fires off his cannons into this balloon.
He said that unlike any conventional object, he said it was almost as if the rounds from his cannon were absorbed by this craft, whatever it was.
It doesn't blow up, nothing happens, it seems to ignore the bullets, and then just ascends into the air at a high rate of speed. Gone.
It's a scenario that is every fighter pilot's nightmare. His weapons are useless. Still under a shoot-down order, Santamaria spends the next 20 minutes playing cat and mouse with the UFO, trying to take another shot. When he gets close enough to make solid visual contact, what he sees astounds him.
Now, I've met the Commandante, I've heard it from him firsthand. I have absolutely no doubt that this happened exactly as he described.
Santamaria claims the UFO is shaped like a light bulb, cut off at the bottom, with a cream-colored dome. It has no visible means of propulsion, no windows, no wings. This now declassified official account of the incident is sent to the DIA. It states that the pilot, quote, intercepted the vehicle and fired upon it without causing any apparent damage. Believing the UFO is advanced technology from an extraterrestrial civilization, Santamaria fears for his life and rapidly descends back to base. Fortunately, the UFO does not follow.
It's a combat situation, and any pilot in combat will be under extreme stress. And clearly, if you add to that the factor that you're dealing with an unknown, it takes it to a completely different level.
What exactly did Santa Maria see in the skies above Peru? Did he fire upon a UFO? Did he actually make a direct hit? Or did he simply succumb to the intense pressure of intercepting an unknown threat?
So there's the extreme stress of combat in an unknown situation and the very realistic prospect of death. So you get this kind of conflict that on the one hand they're involved in this maybe highly classified effort to engage with UFOs, and then after it's all over it's like, hey, this didn't happen. So I think pilots are being put under extreme stress at both ends of the spectrum. During the encounter, it's the combat stress, and afterwards it's that stress of secrecy and threats.
Coming up, if aliens exist, are fighter jets committing an act of war when they intercept UFOs? And if so, are we prepared for the consequences? Caught between defending our skies from unidentified threats and the possibility of Air Force reprisals, the testimony of pilots who have been ordered to shoot down an unknown craft is critical to the study of UFOs. But can their efforts be mistaken as an act of war? Unsealed case file, the Cometa Report.
This report was entitled UFOs, What Should We Prepare For?
In 1999, the Cometa Report was published in France, which really outlined what the evidence was that supported that the UFO phenomena was real, and it was quite possibly a threat to the world as a whole.
It came to the twin conclusions, in effect, that UFOs at some level were a real, solid, tangible thing, and they were seriously prepared to consider the possibility that these things were indeed extraterrestrial spacecraft. Whatever you believe about UFOs, if you've got something flying in such controlled airspace, well, that's something that should be taken seriously, whether you're a believer or a skeptic.
The 13-member panel, made up of some of the brightest government, military, and scientific minds in France, hand down a stunning recommendation.
It outlined the fact that we needed to try and figure out a defense, a way to ward off and fend off any enemies that may be encroaching into our airspace and trying to invade our planet.
Are they visiting our planet? Thousands of witnesses, contactees would tell you yes.
We protect a lot here on the planet Earth, but the minute an alien civilization lands on Earth, that changes in a second.
The Cometa Report questions the Earth's ability to defend against an unknown enemy attack.
If an alien spacecraft visits Earth and it's made out of nuts and bolts, pending no science fiction-like shield around it, I'm guessing we could probably find a way to shoot it out of the sky. But the big debate for me is why. You know, you're either going to successfully shoot down one craft of an alien race and potentially upset a much bigger force that has bigger guns than us. And I don't think that that's something that our pilots would do. I think we need to start crossing our fingers that they don't have any bad intentions. Because quite frankly, I don't think we're going to have the ability to get rid of them.
When the day comes, do we need to rethink how we approach unknown visitors in our skies? This is Unsealed, Alien Files, exposing the biggest secret on planet Earth.